All right, guys, looks like some people are already here. Hi, if you're here to listen to a good book, I'm going to hang out for a little bit and see if we get some more people on, and then we'll get started. In the meantime, it's Mr. Riley here, and I have a special guest. This is Pumpkin. So if you're one of my former students, you may not have gotten to meet him because he's new this year, and sometimes he likes to hang out with me while I teach. What's up? What's up? He's my office buddy. All right. Well, cool. All right, I got some people. Oh, I see some people over there. Oh, Scorpion's yawn. Hey, guys. Hello, Elizabeth. Hello, Mrs. Thomas and family. Good to see you guys. All right. Kelsey. All right. Good to see you guys popping in. I'm really excited about this book. It is one of my all-time favorites. Oh my goodness. Miles Griffin and the rest of the Mounts family. Awesome. That's cool. Oh, hey, Sadie. Long time no see. Well, I mean, I guess 320 I saw you. This is weird because I don't actually see you, just see me. I don't have my Brady Bunch tiles of students. All right. Oh, Dan. Hey, Dan. Now, if you're in my class, you might hear this book again because I love to read it so much. Last year, my class got to hear it via Zoom since we had, I think they did anyway, unless we read it before we left for spring break. My all time favorite books, Jamie O'Rourke and The Big Potato by Tommy DePaula. So much fun. This is actually one of those books I started reading when I was in college for part of my college teacher classes. But my mom always read it to me when I was a kid. To cover my bases, I am reading with permission of Penguin Random House Publishers. So, Facebook, YouTube, don't take it down. Checked our bases, covered our bases. Cross the T's, dotted the I's. All right, Oscar, here for the book. All right, all right, all right. Awesome. A couple more minutes and then we'll get started. As I was saying, this is Mr. Riley's classroom this year. It may look a little different. I do still have Christmas lights up because they make it cozy. Just like my classroom at LVE, I do have Legos and action figures on my shelves. Unlike LVE, there's a puppy next to me. So. Oh, I almost missed it. Let's see. Oh, there we are. Try to see everybody here. Oh, there we are. Hadley. All right. I thought I saw your name. Glad you could make it. All right, we're going to get started here in a minute, but I will say This is one of my favorite books also because, my name's Sean Riley. It's quite the Irish name. And so my family has some Irish background, some Irish heritage. When I was in college, I went and lived in Ireland for a year and took college classes and learned a lot about the culture over there. It was really fun and interesting. And, sometimes people over here will say, do they really celebrate St. Patrick's Day in Ireland? Yes, they do. Every city, doesn't matter how small it is, has their own parade. And I know that because my dad was over there. He visited me over my spring break. And we were traveling across Ireland from Dublin to Galway. And we literally, on St. Patrick's Day, we literally made it through one town right before they closed the main road for their parade. And if they'd closed the road for the parade, we would have just been stuck there for the parade. So, every little town does it, which is pretty cool. And then on the evening news, they show the parades from all over the country. It's very cool. So I love this book because it's kind of taking place in Ireland with some really cool characters and a giant potato. So let's check it out. Fun illustrations, as always, from Tomie dePaola. An Irish folktale retold and illustrated by Tomie dePaola. All right. Jamie O'Rourke was the laziest man in all of Ireland. He would do anything to avoid working, especially if it had to do with growing potatoes.
Jamie O'Rourke, his wife Eileen would say, we'll have nothing to eat this winter if you don't go out and dig up the praties.
Oi, the saints preserve us, Jamie would whine. Me back's as sore as can be. Sure as I'm telling you, wife, you'll have to dig them up yourself. I'll break in two if I so much as get up out of this bed.
Oh my gosh, look at that. He's just hanging out in bed. So Eileen, who had done all the planting and watering and weeding anyhow, would go out to the tiny garden and dig up the smallest potatoes in Ireland, all because Jamie was too lazy to dig a larger garden and had no money to buy good potato seed. Does that sound fair? Then poor Eileen wrenched her back and was laid up in bed.
St. Bridget and the Virgin Mary herself must have smiled on Eileen O'Rourke,
the village women said.
Why, it's the first rest she's had since she married Jamie O'Rourke.
With Eileen in bed, Jamie began to worry. No Eileen to dig meant no praties all winter, and no praties meant no food.
Oh, poor me,
wailed Jamie.
I'll starve to death. I'd best go to the church and confess to Father O'Malley. There's no telling how soon old Death'll be knocking on me door.
So even though it was midnight, Jamie set out for the church. He was about halfway down the hill when he heard a singing and a tap, tap, tapping sound.
What could it be? Sure, and I wouldn't be knowing,
Jamie whispered.
But I swear it's a leprechaun.
And sure enough, sitting in a circle of ferns in the moonlight, was a leprechaun singing and hammering tiny nails into the heels of the fairy boots he was making. Jamie knew just what to do. He crept up and grabbed the little man by his coattails and held firm.
Let me go, let me go,
the leprechaun shouted. Not on your life, Jamie said. Not until you show me where you keep your pot of gold. He's going to try to get the gold. Now, everyone in Ireland knows that leprechauns make boots and dancing shoes for the fairies, who pay for them with gold. And everyone knows that if you catch a leprechaun, he'll pay for his freedom with his pot of gold. But this leprechaun was cleverer than most.
Oh, please, Mr. Mortal Man, he pleaded. I'm just starting out making fairy shoes, and I only have 1 or 2 pieces of gold in me pot. Won't you take a wish instead?
Why, what would I wish for? Jamie asked. Me who's about to die of starvation, because my wife's sick in bed and can't dig the praties for the winter. And they're such puny praties anyhow.
Well,
said the leprechaun, reaching into his pocket,
you could wish for the biggest pratie in the world. It would last all winter, and you wouldn't have to do anything more than plant this seed, water it, and wait.
That sounded wonderful to Jamie. Done! He shouted, and as the leprechaun dropped the seed into Jamie's hand, Jamie let go of his coattails, and off the leprechaun scampered. Now, when Aline heard what he had done, she was furious.
Jamie O'Rourke, you're not only the laziest man in Ireland, but a fool as well, giving up a pot of gold for a pretty seed. Well, I'm going to plant this seed and water it, and you'll see,
Jamie said, and out he went. And Faith Aileen did see. In no time at all, the biggest, finest potato plant had sprouted out of the ground, followed by the potato itself. It was so big, it pushed up not only all the dirt in the garden, but the garden shed and the corner of the cottage as well.
Well, surely now it's ready to dig,
Jamie said proudly. What? Look at that potato. It's huge. It's pushing up the corner of his house. Go on, potato. He hoed all around it, but he couldn't dig that pretty out of the ground. He got a beam and a big rock and tried to pry it out. He pushed and he pushed, but it wouldn't budge. As he was pondering what to do, his neighbor passed by on his way to the village. He couldn't believe his eyes. He couldn't wait to tell everyone in the village what he had seen. And before you knew it, the hill up to Jamie's was filled with villagers coming to see the big potato. And all the people there, there's a big old potato.
Where did it come from? They asked.
Jamie told them about the lucky night he had caught the leprechaun and how smart he had been.
Why, anyone could have gotten a pot of gold, he bragged. But the biggest pretty in the world, well, that took some doing.
However did you outsmart a leprechaun? They all asked. Jamie hesitated and scratched his head.
We'll help you dig up your pretty, Jamie, if you tell us how you did it.
And they grabbed shovels and hoes and started to dig. Everybody's going to help them dig it out. They dug and they pushed and they shoved until the potato flew up out of its hole and rolled down the hill faster and faster and faster until it reached the bottom where it bounced up high and came to a stop, wedged between the stone walls on either side of the road. What to do now?
That pretty is so big that no one, no cart, nothing can get by it, the constable complained to Father O'Malley. How's a boy to get in and out of the village?
What shall we do? The villagers wailed. They all looked at Jamie and said, It's your pretty. You'll have to move it out of our way.
Well,
Aileen spoke up,
there's more than enough pretty for everyone. Why don't you all take some?
So the villagers sawed and chopped and carted off huge pieces of potato, while Jamie sat on the stone wall and watched. Wait a second, Jamie's not helping? There he is. All winter long, everyone had potato to eat and eat and eat, until no one wanted to see or hear of potato again. So they're all happy at first, and then this is like day 13 of eating just potatoes. Not much fun. In the spring, Jamie said, I saved a potato eye for a seed, and it's about time to plant it.
Oh no!
The villagers all cried.
If you promise not to plant it, Jamie, we'll promise before St. Patrick and all the saints to see that you and Aileen always have plenty to cook and eat. We don't want another giant potato around here.
Jamie smiled and agreed. What a perfect life for a lazy man.
And so you see, darling Aileen, Jamie told her, I wasn't such a fool with that leprechaun after all.
And Aileen had to admit that Jamie O'Rourke was right. But what about our leprechaun? He had a pot of gold all along. Clever enough to trick Jamie O'Rourke. So that's Jamie O'Rourke and the Big Potato. And if you haven't read a lot of Tommy DePaula's books, they are awesome. He's also written Strigonona. There's another one about Jamie O'Rourke too, called Jamie O'Rourke and the Pooka. So you might want to check that one out as well. You know, it's always fun having St. Patrick's Day over spring break, although I do love to see all you guys wearing your green. So make sure you get outside and enjoy the beautiful weather over spring break. Wear some green on St. Patrick's Day. Maybe set up a leprechaun trap in your house. You know, we used to always do that in my classroom. They definitely like Lucky Charms, specifically the marshmallows. You know, shiny things. They really like shiny stuff. So if you're going to make a trap, something shiny, maybe a few Lucky Charms, something where they maybe can fall in, you know, so if you could catch them, and maybe don't let them trick you though, right? They tricked Jamie into taking the Big Potato seed. You don't want to do that. You want to get the gold. So, and I do remember one of my students a couple of years ago, I think it was Callie. She said she wanted to trap him, but she didn't want the gold. She just wanted to keep him as a pet. So, I don't know. They might fit in like a hamster cage or something. So, all right, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing my kiddos tomorrow on Zoom. And everybody have an awesome week.